From a resilience standpoint, there's this concept of left of boom, right of boom, and you might be familiar with those 5 steps in that timeline across the top. That's part of the NIST cybersecurity framework that a lot of security people subscribe to. The idea that you have to identify, know what's in your environment. You put layers of protection around the assets that are in your environment. And then between protection and detection, if you detect something that's unusual, you then have a process to go into response and recovery. So you have both this concept of structural awareness, that's just housekeeping, maintenance, making sure that you understand what's in your environment and the layers of protection you have around it, but also situational awareness. And when we're talking incident response plans, we're really talking activating that situational awareness. What starts the process? How do you start flowing through that? And as a business, from a resilience standpoint, you have to consider both. Now, identify, protect, respond, and recover. Really, we're talking about protecting the assets that are inside your business. And I'll talk from the technology perspective. I know Mike and Corey can certainly talk at a higher degree on the business impacts that they've seen with the organizations that they've worked with. But when we think of assets from an IT perspective, we're thinking of the devices, all the physical equipment, things that you care about, from the workstations to the servers to the cloud assets. We're thinking about applications. We're thinking about the networks, the communication between those devices, and the information, the data that you have, the confidential information, the proprietary information, the customer information, the financial information, and then the users, the identities that people have. And all of these things, this whole process about building resilience has, towards the left side of things, you can leverage a lot of technology to be able to manage those things. But towards the right side of things, when you're going into detect, respond, and recover, you need to be able to leverage expertise and have the right team standing by to be able to respond to that event in real time. Because the threat actors, to Mike's earlier point, to Corey's earlier point, they're pretty aggressive. They know at least as much as we do, and they have a head start. So it takes smart people sometimes to fight smart people that are trying to do harm to your business. And all of this is on a foundation of processes. So we start putting in tools to identify and protect and provide sensors if something looks weird. So you might deploy one tool. Mike mentioned MDR, Managed Detection and Response, earlier, and it might provide some of those tools for some of those boxes. But you also should be thinking there's no one tool that's going to protect everything. You've got to do a layered defense with the idea that even if I can't protect everything with one thing, I can use several things that complement each other. And now a threat that's coming through has a very high likelihood of being detected or even blocked by one or more of those layers. So the map might look something like this, and this is just an abstraction on it, where you're using a mix of technology, people, and processes to conscientiously decide, where's my risk? What are the assets I need to protect? How can I best protect them and be prepared to respond? Now, the goal on this, and it might be tempting to fill in every single block on here, the goal is not to play blackout. Aldridge primarily provides IT outsourcing and co-managed in the small and mid-sized business space. A lot of the tools that are capable of filling in more and more of those blocks were enterprise space, even just 3 to 5 years ago. We're seeing the market mature and shift so that more and more of those tools become available to small and mid-sized businesses. It's not going to be cost effective for you to put the ultra high grade enterprise level tools in for every organization, but you might not have that same level of risk. You want to be able to make informed choices to balance what tools, people, and processes are right for your organization and your culture. So some of those fundamental layers, like from a technology perspective, what do we have for backup and recovery readiness? Do we have email and internet threat filtering? Do we have managed detection and response? All the way down the list. From a people standpoint, who's minding the indicators? Do you have an IT team that understands your environment, that's prepared to respond? Do you have a cybersecurity insurer? Do you have an attorney? Do you have all these things lined up such that if you do have to start going through detect, respond, recover, you don't have to scramble at that particular moment to say, what should we do now? The building's on fire. Now is not the time to come up with a fire escape plan. You want to have that ahead of time.